A lot of guitar players chase this idea of knowing the neck. You map out all the notes, learn 5 scale shapes, dive into triads and arpeggios. And while all of that is useful, here is the truth. Knowing the neck doesn't mean just memorizing patterns, that's only half the answer. Real fretboard freedom means you can play anywhere and still make it sound like music, not just a scale. And that's where most players hit a wall. Because the moment you leave that first position, everything changes, different fingerings, different shapes, and suddenly all your phrasing goes out of the window. Let me show you what I mean. In that first position you might have a classic blues lick like this. And it feels solid in that first position. You've played it 100 times, you know it works. But chances are you never tried to move that lick into a new position. Not because you're lazy, but because the next shape, this one, looks completely different, so you assume it won't work there. So instead of adapting one good lick across the neck, you end up creating separate licks for each shape. One for box 1, one for box 2, and another for box 3. And before long the fretboard starts to feel like 5 different zones, where you constantly have to remember where you are so you can grab the right lick. But I think there is a simpler way how to organize the fretboard, one that gives you more freedom and a lot less headache. So in this video I will show you how to finally feel confident soloing across the fretboard using just 2 familiar shapes that repeat everywhere. And if that clicks for you, I'll show you how to take it further inside my course, Fretboard Freedom, which is now on pre-sale, link is in the description. Let's get into it. Before I figured out the system I use today, I tried the traditional route. I thought that if I learn 5 good licks in each position, I'll be able to play anywhere on the neck. So I would practice licks like this in first position, then something completely different in second position, and then something yet completely different in position 3, and so on. Now in theory I understood that if I am playing the A minor pentatonic or blues scale, I'm just repeating the same 5 or 6 notes all over the fretboard. But that's not how I was operating in the real world. Each position felt like a different system, different mechanics and different phrasing. I was still treating them like 5 separate zones, each with their own rules. And it took me quite a long time to realize that the real problem wasn't the shapes, it was how I was thinking about them. Because once I saw that the neck could be reduced to just 2 simple shapes that repeat, everything started to feel much more connected. I could finally move around the fretboard and still feel like I was playing music, not just switching between good licks in one spot and awkward scale movements in a few frets away. 2-shape system makes sense because it gives you the smallest practical amount of information. It introduces the scale in its simplest form, just 1 octave. And from a practical standpoint, there are really only 2 ways to play that octave on the guitar. And the best thing is you already know them. Let me show you. Let's look at the traditional first pentatonic box. If I start from the low E string and put my index finger on the root, the 1 octave version of that scale looks like this. Now, if I shift up and start the second octave, this time I've got my ring finger on the root and the shape looks like this. And that's it. The power of this system is that you can now move anywhere on the neck, and all you have to do is find the root note, place your index or ring finger on it, and just repeat those 2 shapes. If you are only thinking in 2 shapes, it's not that difficult to move across the neck. Because I only need to remember 2 shapes, so it's pretty easy to do that. If I start again here, then I can move. You are not juggling 5 unrelated patterns, so it clicks faster and it feels simpler. But earlier I said that knowing the neck is just half the problem, and that the other half is being able to play something meaningful in each shape, not just run through notes. So let's cover that next. Now, if the 2-shape system really covers the entire neck, which it does, then that means if I can play a good lick in one position, I should be able to play it anywhere else. And that's basically true, but not everything can be copied and pasted perfectly. And as we'll see later, that's not actually a weakness, it's part of what makes this system powerful and very useful. But let's start simple. Let's take a simple lick. Okay, so now I can see that my root note is right here on the 7th fret of D string, and I can see that this is part of my L shape, the shape that goes to the left from the root. And I know it also because my ring finger is on the root note. So if I follow the logic, then if I move my ring finger on any root note on the neck, I should be able to play the same lick. Or I can do it here. Or I can do it here. Basically, I can do it anywhere on the neck, right? Because I'm still following the same logic. I'm just finding the root note, I know what lick I want to play and in which shape it's actually played, and then I can just repeat the same movement and I will get the same lick. So it is pretty simple. If I can see my root notes and the two shapes, I can play anywhere on the neck without feeling lost. And for a lot of my students, especially ones who felt stuck or overwhelmed by the fretboard for years, this is a huge win, because suddenly the neck looks much simpler, connected, and more musical. And if we want to take this further and work on not just moving around, but actually building phrasing inside this system, that's exactly what my course Fretboard Freedom will teach you to do. Pre-sale is now open and link is in the description box. Now let's go back to that first lick we started with. Like I said earlier, this kind of lick is usually harder to move around. It tends to be locked into one position. But I believe that if you want the fretboard to feel connected, you need to get the most mileage out of every lick you learn. It helps you sound musical all over the neck, it reduces how many licks you need to memorize, and it starts to reveal the logic of the fretboard in a real practical way. When I look at that lick, I see it as a part of the L shape, because here is the scale, and here is my lick. Now, using the same logic as before, if we are still in the L shape, we should be able to play that exact lick anywhere on the neck where the L shape appears. So let's try it together. If I start with my root note on the low E string, here is how that same lick will look like. So this is the original lick. And in this position, this is the L shape. It's not that hard to play, and honestly it sounds pretty good. And I'm guessing you didn't have any solid licks down here before, so now you got at least one. Let's try another position. If I start on the A string, on the 12th fret, so here's my L shape, and now here's the lick. Again, pretty playable. Let's start from the D string, so that's the original lick. Now we can start from the G string, which would be right here. So this is my root note, this is the L shape, and the lick. Again, sounds pretty good to me. And I would guess you never played that lick in this position, even though it sounds very good. And you don't have to remember 17 different licks, you remember just the same lick, and you can play it anywhere on the neck. But as you can see, it doesn't sound the same, because you have to move that phrasing, those fingers, you have to move them differently. It sounds a little bit different. Now if I start to play the same lick starting from the B string, or with my root on the B string, it's not really possible to play that lick because I ran out of strings. But even with that one exception, you can already see how far this one idea travels. You have covered most of the fretboard with just one lick. And if you do this with every new lick you learn, your fretboard knowledge will grow tenfold. Not just in theory, but in your actual playing. You will start to hear and create ideas you have never played before, not because you learned more material, but because you are finally using what you already know in new ways. And that's why I said this isn't a weakness of the system that you cannot play every lick in every position with the same fingering. It's actually a strength because it forces you to be a bit more creative and original, and that's honestly a good thing for a musician. If you want to go deeper with this system, not just moving licks around, but building phrasing, connecting ideas across the neck, and finally getting full control of your soloing, that's exactly what we cover inside my course Fretboard Freedom. Pre-sale is open now, and you will find the link in the description box below if you want to check it out. Thank you for watching.